What is goody, everybody? So in this video, I'm just gonna lay out some options of what the Clippers could essentially do for, like, what they could do for, like, their big men, or like what they could what they could do to just sharpen the big man depth, or the big man problem, like what some Clippers fans would say. Like, just this little disclaimer, like, like just because I put put a particular thing as an option, like, does not mean that I'm pushing for it. Essentially, like, these are just like the options that I've just seen and the options I've just made. Like, not every single options I'm really vouching for. It's just me essentially giving out the opinions of the options, or, like, yeah, just simple as that. But, like, so anyways, the first option, the Clippers could essentially just try to trade for a big man. One of the most popular big men that I've always seen was Miles Turner. I was a huge Miles Turner guy before, like, I've actually looked things, like, more deeper. But like, I mean, I would still be fine with getting Miles Turner, but I'm not too big of, just trying to trade for Miles Turner, because, I would not, he's not the type that I would try to, like, like, just trade too much for Miles Turner. Like, I guess, like, you could get a proven backup big for Ivica Zubac, or he could be starting. He is a really good shot blocker, and he is a big that could space the floor. However, I just think he's like a younger Serge Ibaka, in my opinion. And the most I would give up for Miles Turner is, let's just say, maybe like a Marcus Morris and Amir Coffey. Well, I think I could maybe live with trading up maybe Amir Coffey and maybe, just maybe, a second round pick. That's just the kind of the maximum I would give. I used to say maybe throw in Luke Kennard just to guarantee the deal, but now I would definitely not refrain from doing that, because, last year I was just more complacent on giving up Kennard, because I was just so desperate to play my favorite players like Brandon Boston Jr. and Jay Scrub, which is sadly he got waived. But anyways, like, I wouldn't, like, honestly, if I'm keeping a buck with you, the only trade piece I want in returns are just essentially just draft picks from, for is mainly the 2023 draft class, just because how stacked are the future drafts, the future upcoming drafts. But this is just an option, what this is like the most popular take of what most Clippers fans that I would see on social media push for, and is just trading for a big man. And Miles Turner is always the most popular one, just because he's really expendable as always. Um, Another player I would see what some Clippers fans would want to trade for is, well, not Christian Wood anymore because he's with the Mavericks, but it's just essentially always Miles Turner. I don't know any other bigs that is expendable right now that that could realistically be traded to the Clippers. But like I said, I wouldn't be big on trying to just trade for any more people in the market. I'm just more the type of guy who would want to think long term, stockpile some more draft capital for the future, because the Clippers have so much talent already that the Clippers don't really need to essentially do anything. And more towards the end, I'm just gonna further address of the Clippers fans' concerns of our big man depth. But one huge option is just trade for Miles Turner, which is I wouldn't mind, but I'm not really pushing for it. And I would most definitely not trade Brandon Boston Jr. for Miles Turner, or I would definitely not trade a first round pick for Miles Turner either. Like, Brandon Boston Jr., I mean, if you've been watching my videos, it's just so I just laid out so many reasons why we shouldn't trade Brandon Boston Jr. But more for, like, the first round pick part is, I just don't want to dig the Clippers in a bigger hole, if you know what I'm saying, because We already traded so much picks for Paul George, and and then if we trade a 2028 first round pick, it could definitely kind of hurt a little more like long term, and you never know. It could be a really loaded draft class, so it's not a good idea to get too complacent with trading not just young talent, but definitely first round picks. But anyways, I'm gonna just like bring up some stats. So this is Miles Turner's stats. Um, he always played big minutes. Like the lowest minutes was 20. I'll just round it to 23 minutes. If you look at all this and if you just ignore the minutes part, it looks really good. But if you just look at like most of the context, like you will see that he's just a really good role player. Like he's a good 3-point shooter. Well, nah, I wouldn't say good, but I mean, for a big man, he's solid, 38%. He's a really good shot blocker, so that's one thing the Clippers could use is a really good rim protector. But again, remember, he is playing big minutes, so that's that. Assists is, it's okay, I guess. He's a big man, so, bigs don't pass the ball. Rebounding is just a little bit kind of shaky. The lowest was 5.5 rebounds, and he still played a significant amount of minutes, and the most rebounds he ever got was 7.3, and that's when he played 30 plus minutes, which is, I guess, that's okay, I guess. Um, Free throw percentage, obviously good because he can shoot, but his field goal percentage, for a big man, it is pretty low and it's kind of like a little bit bad. Like, like his field goal percentage is kind of like how a guard would be, like, shooting. Like, bigs should be averaging like 50 to 60% from the field goals. Unless if you're like some type of superstar, I guess. But another knock is he is injury prone. Like if we do somehow trade for him, like he could be good for us, or he could just be like an Anthony Davis for us, but except he's a role player. Um, I guess one thing that could be good is, if we somehow steal Miles Turner, we can flip Miles Turner for some better assets, I guess. But I'm just essentially just laying out the pros and cons, like in general. And next slide is let's just compare him to Ivica Zubac. Now, Ivica Zubac, man, a lot of Clipper community give him a lot of slander, but I'm usually always in the middle, but I would usually defend Zubac a lot just because I feel this guy's getting slandered way too much. But if like me think about it, like now I'm starting to be more of a pro Zubac type Clipper because like Zubac, in my opinion, he's just not used properly, and then he's just never put in the right situations. So let's just see how many minutes does Ivica Zubac and Miles Turner play. So the most minutes Ivica Zubac ever played was 24 minutes, which was just like like about 2 more minutes over Miles Turner, the least amount of minutes. Because you can see the least amount of minutes was 23 minutes. Least the most amount of minutes was 24.4 minutes, which is like, not too much. So that's why his stats will look mediocre. And another possible factor why I could see why lots of Clippers fans would be hard on Zubac because, he doesn't really shoot the ball. He's more of a traditional big. Like, if Zubac just shoot the ball, things would be a different story. And I believe Tyronn Lue should give him a green light to at least shoot the floor from the mid-range. But anyways, let's just lay out the Zubac and Miles Turner comparison. So, obviously, he gets way less more minutes. His field goal percentage is way better than Miles Turner. Like, he's actually averaging the amount of percentage that how you would want a big man to average. The last 2 seasons, he was 65%. Last season was 62%, which was pretty good. His free throw percentage is also pretty solid as well too. It's a little worse than Miles Turner. Yeah, a little worse than Miles Turner. His rebounding, however, is compared to Miles Turner, like, yeah, first 3 years it was a little like shaky because he wasn't getting much minutes. Like the man was playing like what? Like let's see. So Miles Turner 5.5 rebound per game, but he played like 22 minutes. Zubac like literally like having seven rebounds, but just playing the same amount of minutes that Miles Turner would get, which is like pretty crazy. And also, for heck, let's compare Zubac's best rebounding season to Miles Turner. So basically, like Miles Turner rookie season and Zubac's last season right now. Zubac essentially got the rebound is essentially double of Miles Turner. So Zubac is definitely a way better rebounder than Miles Turner. He's also a pretty Zubac. Like one thing that's pretty underrated about him is his passing is pretty good as well too. 1.6 assists. Miles Turner did get 1.6 assists too. Um, so I guess you can say their playmaking level is kind of similar, but I would honestly say Zubac playmaking is better from what I've seen from Zubac because Zubac Loki has that underrated type of pass. Unfortunately, I cannot really bring out the film just because I'm at Vegas right now. I'm chilling on vacation, so it'll be really hard for me to get the film because I don't want y'all to see spinning circles. Um, Blocks, like Zubac's blocks, is not as high as you would like it to be. But remember, look at the minutes. And look at the minutes that Miles Turner is playing. So Miles Turner is still a better shot blocker whatsoever. But Zubac's rim protection is not it should not be slept on because remember he got 6 blocks against the Houston Rockets and Zubac just needs to get placed in the right situation to make him work. And I believe if the Clippers put Zubac in the right situation, especially if you play Zubac with John Wall, especially with the John Wall acquisition, I believe Zubac could have a breakout year for sure. Um, but yeah, that's just essentially it. So this is just option one. Option one, just for a reminder, just in case y'all didn't get it. Clippers could always trade for a big man, which is, like I said, I'm pretty neutral on that. As long as we don't give it too much, I could be okay with it. But let's just say I'm not too big on it, and I would much rather trade for some draft picks in 2023. I was trying to make a video about it today, but like I said, the internet was kind of a little bit shaky, so I don't want to have y'all see spinning circles when I'm just trying to show y'all a film. Shout out to Clip Gang and Don't Bang for giving me the idea of the film. So option number two is just essentially just pick up a big man, just find whatever big man in the market. Now this options I'm like the most supportive of. What you gotta lose. Try to find like a veteran big man just in case for a backup because the only real big man that the majority of Clippers fans are familiar of is Vicha Zubac. Because our backup big, Moses Brown, a lot of people are unfamiliar with him. I'll probably just I'll talk about it more towards the end. So some that's why a lot of Clippers fans they would push for some of a veteran big man or something like that, which is I'm not opposed to. The most popular one is Boogie Cousins, and a lot of people, some people who are overly analytical, they would criticize against signing Boogie Cousins because on his defensive end, it's not the best in the perimeter. But he's a brick wall, which means he's a really strong physical big that will crush you down low. And when you try to score on him, and if you're not fast, good luck trying to back him down. Pretty strong dude. He can also be a pretty good rebounder, at least from what I've seen for the Clippers. when he played with the Clippers. He had a lot of good rebounding moments. He has that dominant type of trait, which is pretty good for the Clippers locker room. Um, let's see what else. Good thing about Boogie is he can shoot threes, which probably is the reason why a lot of Clippers fans would be more comfortable with Boogie Cousins rather than Ivica Zubac, because Boogie, he's willing to shoot threes. Zubac, he is not. He hasn't really, shown the capability of shooting threes, which I don't know if it's a coaching thing or a Zubac thing, but either way, Tyronn Lue should encourage Zubac to try to take threes. But because, that's just the way how the NBA is. But for Boogie, and one thing with Boogie Cousins though is if you do sign him, I I would recommend you to put I would recommend just essentially just putting Boogie in the right situation. Like especially one thing like you want to try to do with Boogie and Zubac in general is try to have him play with John Wall at the same time, because John Wall is a pass first type guard, and he would, and I assume John Wall, he would definitely feed the big. So that is one thing you want to do with Boogie is just feed him the ball. Same with Zubac, feed him the ball. Like the reason why Rajon Rondo and Boogie Cousins was kind of like a little bit disappointment of the year 2021, I think is just because um, they Rondo and Boogie Cousins were not playing together, because like if because usually when Rondo plays, Boogie would be on the bench. When Boogie Cousins play, Rondo would be on the bench. Um, so had they probably had Tyronn Lue try to experiment them to play together, who knows? It could be a different outcome. But at the same time, I could easily be wrong. So that's the most popular option from what I've seen is signing Boogie Cousins. Um, Another option that I've heard the Clips are rumored to is they might consider to sign Zoe Key or something like that, which is, I mean, I'm down to see him sign for the training camp exhibition, because I kind of heard of him a little bit back in 2017, and I kind of seen a little bit of his highlights, and he is pretty agile. He is at the same time is a pretty thin frame, but at the same time, I'm more than happy to bring him and Moses Brown to kind of have a little a training camp type thing to see which one's better. Essentially, if I'm trying to get to the point is I'm essentially open to signing any young, talented, high upside big to kind of see a little just to see which one is the right guy. Another person could be Isaiah Robbie, which is the dude from OKC. He's kind of like a power forward, but he could kind of play center because he has a hard nosed type defense. At least from what a friend told me. Another option could be Andre Drummond. Hey, he could get rebounds for us. I don't know about JaVale McGee, but JaVale McGee, I'm cool with him too. Quick, quick-footed, good defender. Um, let's see who else. I think that's just. Oh, Tristan Thompson. I guess I don't know if he's a free agent, but open to signing him for a really cheap veteran minimum. Um, Going back to option number one, another person that a lot of Coops fans would be big on trading for is John Collins, and you know, trading for John Collins would require a lot, so I wouldn't really budge on doing it. And my standpoint, the only player I want essentially in return from trades is just draft capital. Now let's go to the third option that I just essentially made, and the Clippers could just essentially just stick what we have. Now look, if you just look at what the Clippers have for the center positions, you're gonna be just like, what the fuck is this? Zubac's the only dude just playing. Zubac's the only dude we have. All our guys are G League players. Well, let's just get to the point of it. So first thing I just want to address is a lot of Clippers fans think Ivica Zubac is trash, and that's one of the biggest myths in the Clippers community. Zubac, yeah, like there'll be games that it wouldn't look pretty for him. However, like that could be solved if like Zubac just trains properly. Like they hired the right trainers around Zubac, especially with this Butterfinger. Just practice him catching the ball, and another huge factor. What the Clippers could do to make Vika Zubac a really reliable big man from the ugly duckling to a really like good, useful, like fan favorite asset is like Tyronn Lue could kind of like have like just kind of like one thing that Tyronn Lue could try to add up to his coaching is have the players feed Zubac the ball more often. Like I'm gonna show you some of the stats like of how much like Zubac only had for his field goal attempts. There'll be moments when Zubac tried to call for the ball in his hands, but they just wouldn't feed Zubac the ball. Now with John Wall, that should definitely help a lot for Ivica Zubac because he could just feed him the rock, crush him down low, bam, get an easy dunk. Just like how Zubac dominated against Christian Wood. Like essentially, if they just feed Zubac the ball, Zubac could definitely have a breakout year, and he could who knows, he could be a star. He really could be a star. Like he could like Ivica Zubac could be like how Pau Gasol was for the Lakers or how Marc Gasol was for the Raptors. Like I compare Zubac to the Gasol brothers so much because like both get the job done. Both will be on the clumsy side of the spectrum. Only difference is Zubac hasn't proven that he can shoot the ball yet. But that's another thing I want to address. Tyronn Lue, like another thing he could address is just give Zubac the green light to shoot. Like he doesn't have to make Zubac just play like a straight up shooting guard, but he should kind of like allow Zubac to get like a feel of it. Just maybe like like let him attempt like two like not two jump shots, two 3-point shots, and allow him to take some jumpers too if if he feels like it. But mainly feed Zubac the ball and just let Zubac try to grow. Just let him try to expand. Like don't try to just keep using him as a just in his comfort zone. Just allow him to just get a feel of it. But like especially if we do play like a really bad team, just let Zubac shoot the ball. You never know. Like I mean, hey, Isaiah Hartenstein is a worse free throw shooter than Vicha Zubac, but Isaiah Hartenstein has shown capabilities of shooting the ball. So Zubac could be a pretty good 3-point shooter. It's just he wasn't able to show it. But that's just an interesting theory. But so now let's get to Moses Brown. So I know some Clippers fans are not like too they're not comfortable with having Moses Brown as our backup because he played in the G League a lot, so he's not really proven. Um, Moses Brown is kind of like he's also fits the Zubac type situation. Like he's a traditional big that doesn't have the ability to space the floor. He's pretty raw. I think his free throw shooting is not the best, but I wouldn't mind having Moses Brown as a backup big because one, he's very young. He's 22 years old. Two, he's very promising at rebounding. Three, he has the size to be a really good rim protector, and he has and he's shown capabilities that he could protect the rim. One time he just got 7 blocks against us, but it was Daniel Tour, but still, he's shown abilities to get some blocks. But yeah, like he could definitely be a solid backup big because he could help us grab boards. And one thing I don't understand is they don't like Moses Brown, but yet some people some people in the Clipper community they want to get Hassan Whiteside for some reason. And Hassan Whiteside, I'm not really big on Hassan Whiteside just because he doesn't have any thing that really stands out to me. Like, he's not a insane rebounder. He's not an insane shooter. Well, is he an insane rebounder? I don't know. Maybe he is a good rebounder because he's a center, but I don't know exactly. But so like just because the person is just 22 years old don't mean that you can't have him as a backup big man. But but I'm just but basically just give Moses Brown a chance to see what he can do. Like if he's just trash, then oh shoot, then we could try to find someone else. Like just maybe sign someone. But but I don't think Moses Brown is not gonna be bad for us. Like he could be pretty solid. Like especially the Clippers struggle to get rebounds. Moses Brown could be a pretty good rebounder and a rim protector, something that the Clippers could use. Like if you really think about it, Moses Brown is like a salmonella version of Rudy Gobert. Like they're both are good rebounders. They both are rim protectors. Of course, Rudy Gobert is obviously way better. Hence, that's why I say Moses Brown is a salmonella version of him because, like, he's kind of like Rudy Gobert, but way, way, way lower than Rudy Gobert, obviously. But yeah, that's why. Um, Now, next person, Musa Diabote. Well, is he a center? Is he a power forward? He can play both essentially. Like he's 6'10", 6'11", and he's quick enough to play power forward. But at the same time, it would be good enough. He would also be good enough to play center because he has the length and he's like essentially almost 7 foot. And Musa Diabote is very promising, and we got him. We essentially got a steal for the draft. Like if there's one thing I want to see Tyron. Well, I should stop saying if there's a one thing because there are multiple things that Tyronn Lue should do. My apologies on that, but if there's another thing I want Tyronn Lue to do, and I always vouch for this, like since I essentially make this video, I mean since I started this YouTube channel, is just play the young guys. Just please play the young guys, and please, 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 please play Musa Diabote a good amount of minutes. Like, of course, people are going to say, oh, he's undeveloped. Oh, he's not going to do it against Jokic, blah, 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 blah. But hey, like, Musa could rebound. He's very athletic. He's very switchable. He can kind of shoot threes to a certain extent. Sure, he's skinny, but at the same time, this is not bodybuilding. This is basketball. So I don't see anything wrong of playing Musa Diabate and Moses Brown as the backup because Moses Brown can rebound and he can shot block. Musa can shoot. He can rebound. He can block. He essentially could do a lot of things. So I don't see too much of an issue until maybe training. Wait, not training camp. Preseason happened, and if they all of a sudden play like trash, then guess we could just re-sign a backup big. But I'm more of a young talent type of guy, so I don't mind. So I really wouldn't mind having the center depth, honestly. Like because I just want to see Musa play some good minutes because I feel that guy could be really helpful for us. And also after you know after all addressing all the center depth, the Tyronn Lue doesn't really use the traditional center. Like he tends to go small ball a lot of times, and small ball is kind of like the new swagger of the NBA. Like the Golden State Warriors use that all the time, and they manage to be incredibly successful. So, and when Tyronn Lue actually uses small ball, it works a decent amount of time to an extent. Like, um, all of our power forwards, like, they could kind of play center, and they do impressively well. I shouldn't say well, but like towards their standards on rim protection, especially Nick Batum, like especially when we played against the Mavericks. Um, but like Tyronn Lue uses small ball a lot, but hopefully Tyronn Lue plays Musa Diabote a lot of minutes because Musa Diabote, like, if we play him as our center, our off our offense could be still be pretty fast, and on the defensive end, like, we can lock down, the perimeter guards more easier. So that way, like, like later say Luka Doncic, he wouldn't be hunting down like Ivica Zubac to get an easy bucket on him. So let's just say he switches up to Musa Diabate could essentially lock Luka up to an extent. Um, but yeah, that's just my opinion on the Clippers center depth. So like, yeah, it is like an issue, which is I could understand if there's one big hole of the Clippers starting five, but I think like I don't think the Clippers, you know, center depth is as bad as it looks because for the reasons I laid out, like just to speed run it, uh, Moses Brown, good rebounder, good shot blocker. He hasn't shown much, but sample size is pretty bad. But like from what I've seen from Moses, I wouldn't mind to an extent of having him as a backup. Musa Diabate, he's shown what he could done. He's shown what he could do. Just just give Moose some good amount of minutes. So more stats about Ivica Zubac and essentially comparing him to other bigs. This is like a Miles Turner comparison. So Miles Turner, he averaged 9.4 field goals attempt. So he would get the ball a decent amount of times, and which that's the reason why he scores like 14 points and all that. So let's look at Ivica Zubac. Ivica Zubac is only 6.5. 6.5. This is like this season. 6.5 field goals attempt. So just look at the difference. Just look at the difference. Like if he like the point is Miles Turner is not like too much better than Ivica Zubac. Like Zubac could be like a star if he's put in the right situation. Well, maybe not a star, but like at least a really great role player if he's put in the right situation. Like it shows, like this stat shows that Zubac should be fed the ball more often. Like the Clippers have a really bad habit of not feeding the bigs. That's why our bigs would look useless at a lot of times. So if the Clippers just essentially feed Zubac more, he would definitely make other teams pay like big time. Just like how Zubac cooks the Houston Rockets. But like I said, that's just my opinion. So again, just like a brief overview, I gave three options what the Clippers could do. First option is just make a trade for a big man, which is I'm not too big on just making a trade in general. I like the roster we have. All I really want the Clippers to do is just shed some depth to get some prospects. Well, to get some draft picks in the future because like gotta play chess, not checkers. Number two, just sign a big man, which is I'm really cool with. I'm actually kind of like a fan of doing it. And number three, just stick to what we have. And if we stick to what we have, it's not the end of the world. Like it's not as bad as it will look if we stick to what we have. Like, however, if things go wrong, just worst case scenario, we could just find someone to acquire. Like just sign someone. But I don't. But if we do keep what we have, if we just don't do anything for our center depth, like it's not gonna be like insanely like bad. Unless if you just decide to trade Ivica Zubac, which not really be a good idea because then you would just have Moses Brown and Diabate starting, which is could be cool, but it could go wrong as well too. But let me know what you think about the options. I'm sure a lot of y'all are gonna push for option one because that's the most popular takes that the Clippers community would support. So again, leave another comment down below on what the Clippers could do for the big man stuff. Like, is the Clippers big man issue a huge problem that needs to be addressed? Just let me know down in the comments, and I'll be sure to chat with you on the comment section. And as y'all know, peace.